Hi everyone, it's Michelle from Scrap Secrets and welcome to another Sketch Sunday video. This week's sketch comes to you from My Favorite Things. It is sketch number 324 and as always the information will be listed below for the link to the sketch. So the products that we're going to use today are a mix of My Favorite Things as well as Mama Elephant. So we're going to use the Mama Elephant zipper die, which I've never used before, the Mama Elephant Just Note stamp set, as well as the Our Story stamp set from My Favorite Things. And the stencil that we're going to use for the background is Harlequin by My Favorite Things. Now this card's going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be a 5x7 card. So this background white piece is 1/4 of an inch smaller than that. And there will be a red mat that's 1/8 of an inch smaller than this, or larger than this piece, smaller than the card base. So I'm just taking two Distress inks, Candied Apple and Carved Pumpkin, and going back and forth, alternating between them and just doing the background. Now I've taped it down with some washi tape so that the stencil will stay in place. And obviously the stencil is not big enough to cover the whole entire page. So I'm going to do the first part of it, and then I'm going to turn the stencil around, line it up, and place it down. I wasn't sure how much an overlap I wanted, and it turns out I only did one, just in case I wasn't exactly on with how I put the stencil back on. So again, I'm going back in with those same Distress inks, the Candied Apple and the Carved Pumpkin, and going back over it. So this is going to be the background piece, and we're going to cut the zipper part of this out so that when the recipient pulls it back, there's a message behind it. So there's the background piece. And now I'm just going to clean up because I get Distress ink everywhere. Every time I use Distress ink, it's all over my hands, it's all over the mat. That's a craft mat, if you guys have never seen it, by Ranger, and it's absolutely fantastic. So we're going to do the two pieces for the background, and that is a circle and a banner piece. The banner piece is My Favorite Things. The circle, I believe, is a Sizzix die, and I've already cut them out with my Cuttlebug, and I'm going to use my Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink. If you saw it was in a bag like that, I was watching my twin nieces last night, and I brought that brought a kit over to stamp some things for them so that they could color, and really all they wanted to do was get inky. So I wanted to make sure that the supplies that I didn't want them to touch were safely away in a bag, especially the ink, because they'd get it all over them like I did here. So alright, so I stamped these images up, and it's the girl in the chair, and then there's a bookshelf with some books on top of it. That's going to go at the top of the card, and then the girl is going to go over the zipper piece. So now I'm just trying to figure out where I want the zipper piece to go. So here it is. So when you do the zipper, you want to make sure that the line, the edge that the recipient pulls up is actually on the card base. At first I thought I wanted it to go sideways, then I thought I wanted it to go long ways. It ends up having to go sideways because of the Cuttlebug. It's a little bit too long to go through the Cuttlebug otherwise. So I'm just positioning things out, and I wasn't sure. I thought that I liked this way better, but if you notice, I wanted to make sure that the little tear piece is actually on the card. If not, it doesn't make sense. So it actually will not cut all the way through. It just kind of scores the lines so that the recipient can actually pull it up. So again, I'm just placing things on, and this is how I think it's going to be. And then when I get to my Cuttlebug, I realize that I can't do it. But this is the way I think it's going to go for right now. So I was just placing things out to see where they would be. Now I'm using my grid mat to line them up so that I get a straight zipper piece. So I will be right back. And if you notice that, yes, that's when I realized that it can't do that. So we are going to be using the Open Here with the Arrow stamp set from the Mama Elephant stamp set, Just a Note. So I'm using some of that same My Favorite Things Black Hybrid Licorice ink and testing it out on a scrap piece of paper and then making sure that it stamps. So there you go. You can see it on there. I think it looks really good. And now we're going to use the this isn't the Misty, this is the Perfect Stamper, and this is by Hampton Arts, I believe. And I wanted to show you guys how easy it is to line things up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the red background piece, which is where I want to stamp, And then I want to put the piece with the zipper part on top of it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the sentiment up on the zipper piece, and then I'm going to take the zippered piece off of it after I've lined the stamp up perfectly. And now since I have that red piece underneath, it's going to stamp in the exact same spot. This is easier than trying to mark things off and measure and do this. You know that it's perfectly stamped if you do it that way. It's even easier when the pieces are the exact same size, but I wanted a little bit of a border. So the sentiment that we're using is "Have a Novel Birthday." And I stamped it twice with that same My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink, and it came out beautifully. Now, you're going to want to, when you put these pieces together, you're going to want to make sure you use very strong adhesive and put it right on top and on bottom of the pieces. Make sure you do not cover any of the part that's actually the zipper, but put a lot on, more than you normally would, so that the card front will stay attached to this back piece here. So I'm just lining things up and making sure that it looks right and it's even around all sides. And now I'm going to just put the other pieces in place, and I'm going to do my Copic coloring, most of my Copic coloring off camera. So I'm taking the Candied Apple Distress ink and going around the top of the banner piece, and then for the majority of the circle I'm going around with the carved pumpkin. After I cut the other piece off, I will finish the base of it, because in the sketch there's a flat bottom to the circle. So I colored off the girl image off camera, just because I knew it was going to take a really long time, and I didn't think you guys wanted to see me color, but I did decide to color the little banner piece in. All of the Copic markers will be listed below. All the markers will be listed below. I used Copic markers, Premier by Nicole markers, Promarkers, as well as the hashtag coloring markers. So I used a lot, and I also used a Pilot V5 pen. If you can see, the chair has some stripes in it, which I added on with the Pilot V5 black pen. So I'm just going in with a bunch of coordinating colors, some reds, some yellows, and blues for the books. I believe I used blue. I knew I used blue for her dress, but I just wanted to make it kind of like a primary color card. It's not very or like a bright color card. It's not very, no pinks, no purples, no things like that. I tried to stay with a pretty bright colored theme when I was coloring these images in. And again, all of the markers will be listed below. It just would take me too long to read all of them off to you, and I pretty much used every bright color marker that I have. Skin tones were the same way that I normally do skin tones. Hair, pretty much the same way. I usually do either a brown or a blonde hair, so those are pretty much the same, and I just felt like you guys would be bored watching it. So just coloring up the last of the books, putting more than one color on the books just so that it gives it a little bit more of a realistic feel to it. And this image is really, really cute, and it looks nice when it's put onto the card. I just thought the books looked very nice as an addition. I was looking for another piece to go along with the to be stamped on the banner. So this is from Our Story by My Favorite Things. So this is the first time that I've actually used it on a card. I've used it in coloring challenges, but I've never actually used it on a card. So now I'm going to cut off the bottom of the circle. I'm just measuring it out just to make sure that it's even, and just trying to figure out how much of that circle I actually want cut off. So I kept going back and forth between a couple of measurements, and then once it's cut off, I take that same carved pumpkin distress ink, the mini ink blending tool, and went over the bottom of it. Now I'm going to use my ATG to put it on top of the zipper piece. Now you want to make sure you're not actually covering any of the tracks for the zipper piece, so it's going to sit on there, but just a little bit above it so that it's not actually touching it, so that the zipper piece can still open. Then putting that piece on the top, and then we're going to put it on our card base. Again, the card base is 5x7. It's a pre-made card base, and I'm using a lot more tape than I normally would because because of the zipper on there. So the person's actually going to have to pull that off, so I wanted it to stick to the card. So there's the card, and there's the sketch. I know that there's no piece at the bottom. I tried to figure it out, but I didn't really want it. So that's the card for this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!